We needed to rant and get this out of our system about all the gatekeeping agile coaches that are out there. I mean, I don't know if they're really agile coaches. I don't even know what they would be called. People trying to get attention on LinkedIn, like
self-professed agilists, I guess. I don't know.
I guess, people peddling wares, selling services, selling themselves on the internet. I don't know. Selling their services, I guess.
Selling their services.
So I've noticed a trend on LinkedIn of people undercutting agile and agile coaches, or really anything. It could be anything that they're undercutting. This week, it's agile and agile coaches. Next week, who knows? Could be product people, could be whatever. And they'll undercut it in public with questionable reasoning or with statistics that are not backed up by anything in order to get attention.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is going to be a rantcast.
Oh, rantcast.
Rantcast. Yeah, I agree with you. I've seen that. It's not just this week. I've seen that ongoing, right? Some people come in and say, that stuff doesn't work. Try my way.
You're right.
Right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's the reason why I say it's unfortunate is because it's narrow in scope, firstly. Secondly, those people that are coming up in the industry just learning about things, they get the wrong message from this. They get the wrong message because they're just blatantly told 48% of this is wrong and whatever else. Yeah. And these are absolute numbers. It makes it sound like it's based on some sort of data science or some research, and frankly it's not. It's just pulled out of the air.
Yeah,
so it's very unfortunate.
Yeah. Let's get fired up here and go into a specific post I saw on LinkedIn. So again, we're not naming and shaming, so no. This is all, I've blown the screen up so it's random. For those of you listening who can't see on the screen, it says the post is agile coaching is in trouble, and his first reference point to give us information about why agile coaching is supporting evidence. His first point of supporting evidence is 99% of agile coaches mostly talk to each other and are therefore convinced they know how to solve the world's problems.
Wow. So the author obviously has done some research by the look of this, and he's discovered that 99% of agile coaches talk mostly to each other. Really? He maybe only knows 2 agile coaches that talk to each other.
Well, let's run through everything that's on the screen just so we can snip back camera angle. So he says saying 99% basically means all of the agile coaches, they basically only talk to other agile coaches. So they are convinced that they know how to solve the problem. So basically saying every agile coach firmly believes they know how to solve all the problems that they encounter. And he goes on to say 90% of agile coaches got a certification, so they got the certification so that they can tell companies what agile processes to follow. Process? He says process, but that's not right. 80% of agile coaches claim to have C-level coaching experience, because that pays more, not because they have the experience. I'm kind of with him on that one, but we'll come back to it. And he says 75% of agile, so the overwhelming majority, that's why 75% of agile coaches thinks mindset, psychological safety, and Lego workshops will do the trick. Isn't there a specific instruction methodology that uses Legos? He's attacking that. Okay.
Yeah, he's not the only one. I've seen other people do that too. So you can't be serious about business. You're playing with Legos.
What about the Lego Corporation?
Exactly.
I mean, they made quite a bit of money over the years.
They do.
Are they not owned by Hasbro yet? Like Hasbro, you're missing out on a gold mine if you don't own Lego yet. I'm just saying. It's hot stock tips on the Agile podcast.
Worth every penny you didn't pay for.
That's right.
Let's see if there are any other data points.
Let's argue a bit on the one that I actually want to argue about. He says 80% of Agile coaches, so 1 out of 5 Agile coaches.
No. Not 5.
Oh, I'm sorry. 4 out of 5.
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5 Agile coaches claim to have C-level coaching experience only because it pays more money, not because they actually have done it before. So he's saying 80% of Agile coaches are liars, basically, is what he's saying in this one.
Right. That's what I read here as well. And I challenge that because let's say they're saying that. Let's just give him for a second, give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's say he's right. 4 out of 5 are lying. how do you think that'll go down when they actually stand in front of a C-level person and have to deal with stuff, right? How is that going to go?
I mean, maybe that's what he's saying. Maybe he's saying that they are woefully unprepared to stand in front of a C-level executive. I mean, if I'm going to support, I don't know why I'm doing. I guess I enjoy pain. That's why I'm supporting what he's saying here. I'll be in his corner here. Okay. The majority of Agile coaches out there say that they have coached at the in order to support what he's saying, I have to rephrase what he's saying, which kind of is like a ding on him to start with. But what he's saying is the majority of coaches out there are claiming that they can coach up in the organization to the leadership level. What the leadership level means, whether it means actually the C level or not, let's take that out of the equation for a second, because you're being a little ridiculous when you say you're coaching the C level if your organization is like 10,000 plus people, because the C level is probably very elusive to get a hold of. You're probably not really getting a hold of them. Maybe you're getting a hold of somebody as a director level. If you can coach the people that are your senior managers or whatever, that's probably good enough for your positioning in your organization. So let's take the incendiary, inflammatory definitions that he's using offline for a second and talk about the spirit of what he's talking about. If you're saying that you have skill in coaching up in the organization, skill in doing it and success in doing it need to be separated in this discussion point. And I realize that I'm really taking the entire car apart to explain like one. You know what I mean? Yeah. To really get behind, like, see, it works.
That's okay.
See, it works. Like, the engine works. Yes, the rest of the car didn't work, and the wheels don't run, and this doesn't really. Like,
the engine works.
I have to take the whole thing apart. I have to dissect the whole bit of his little straw man here to talk about it. But I'm kind of behind this is hiring an Agile coach who has proven experience influencing the leadership and really changing their opinion and connecting them to a vision and building on that. That's a unique skill set. And yes, a lot of people think they have that skill, but maybe not.
They may not. No, so absolutely, that's true. So since we've taken out C-level from his assertion here,
I have to.
Just coaching up. Yeah, exactly. Up is enough, I think, right, for a purpose of our discussion. So any Agile coach worth his or her salt should really have some skills to coach up. If you don't, the Scrum Guide even says you should be doing that as a Scrum Master. If you don't have that, then you're off to a non-starter. You've got to be able to do that. Now, do all of these Agile coaches have the skills to do that effectively? Probably not, right? Because people are at different levels of their own maturity.
Yeah.
So yes, of course, right? Some of them who's been around for like 15 plus years and they've done it a while. Yeah, they've come up through the school of hard knocks. They understand what's going on here. They know when to push, when not to push. Whereas a young gun who's had 4 or 5 years of Scrum Master experience is now just delving into Agile coaching. They may not have what it takes to coach up, especially at the C level. But they can still coach up, right? At middle management level, to your point, directors can do that.
Yeah.
So I think the underlying theme is valid that not everybody would have that kind of experience to be able to do that. And forget about the percentages, I think, here, because that's big.
Yeah. While I was perusing the screen here, and I was reading his 90% of Agile coaches got a certification so they can tell companies what Agile processes to follow. I was thinking about that one, and I was thinking about myself, and I'm like, I remember I went to my CSM course because the company had gone Agile, and the company had gone Agile for many years. The company was they adopted Scrum. They're like, we're Agile now, we're adopting Scrum, we're not going to do documentation. They fired the documentation guy. And I was like, this can't be the framework that's taking the methodology, whatever the mindset, whatever you want to call it. But I was like, this can't be the methodology that's taking the world by storm and be so bad. I was like, it can't be we don't do documentation and we're going to do whatever the developers say and we're not going to have testers anymore.
Right.
And like, I was like, this cannot be the way that it is. I wanted to figure out like, what are other teams doing that are using Scrum, and kind of what is the book saying? And I want to talk to people and be around people and network with people that are doing this on their teams and talk to them about what they're doing. sorry, I mean, I guess he would lump me in the 99% of agile coaches that talk to other people, but like, well, like he's saying that I only talk to other agile coaches. That's not true. Like I talk to product people, I talk to developers, I talk to business folks, I talk to executives and founders of companies, like to talk about their perspective and what they want and what they need, and I compare that against, again, my experiences and what the book says and what I've seen on teams and stuff like that. But I bring that all up to say the reason I got my cert is because I was like, wait a minute, I don't think I'm crazy. I think all y'all that are all the developers and the project managers and those people that are like asking for things that they've come up with deadlines. I was like, I think y'all are crazy.
Well, I still believe that.
Oh, okay.
Because people are just picking dates out of the air.
Yeah.
With no basis in anything, really. It's not evidence-based or anything like that.
Right, yeah, no.
Pick a date and go, tell me why you can't make this date. And so for that matter, I just say pick any date. It's as good as any other.
Yeah.
Right? You're just making believe at the moment.
But the accusation here, that's right, I said the accusation.
Accusation.
The accusation here is you only got your CSM so you can go back to your company and tell them that you're doing this wrong or you're doing this wrong or whatever. That's the accusation.
So I think some of that is probably valid in that you've got some people that simply just sit through the 2-day class, get their cert, and say, this is it. This is what we need to do. I'm going to go in and I'm going to install, use that word.
Right.
I'll install this framework, XYZ, whatever it is, right? And that's what we're going to use. Particularly when it comes to scaling, because these people, I find that these folks that do that, they've not really run successful projects or worked with teams that had any success at a core level, right? Let alone at a scaled level. All they know is, I got this certification. It says I'm a scaled agilist now. Yeah. I can scale agile. So I'm going to do it this way because that's what my certification was in. As opposed to some people that basically say, forget about all those certs, whether you have them or not. Let's just assess the culture of the organization. How are teams working? Are we doing the basics right? Focus on that first before we start to scale up, because that's a magnifying glass.
Right, yeah. So
he probably is right to a certain degree. His percentages are way off. But I think he might have done that to be incendiary anyway.
Sure.
So yeah, some people just go in and preach and say, I am a cert-carrying legit agilist. Thou shalt do this. And that's just not true.
Yeah, I think this is about the time. I probably should have opened the podcast with this. My hypothesis with this topic is that this gatekeeping of agile coaching hurts the whole community and undermines agile coaches more than it helps. I don't even know how you would help by throwing it out this way. I'm not trying to blast specific people, so we've cut out the name of the specific post, but I've seen a bunch of posts like this, and it comes up all the time when I talk to people in person, and they see things like this. I know stuff like this is swirling around. And also, somebody mentioned to me in an organization that I was in one time where I think I was on a contract and I was shuffling out of the organization, and I was like, if you guys go to hire an agile coach, or if you guys want to bring in another contract agile, I think I was a product person. It's all flooding back to me now. I was a product person in that organization, and I was there on contract doing product work. And I remember telling them, if you want to bring in a permanent employee to be your Scrum Master or to do agile coaching, because I'm kind of like one and the same to me.
Sure.
I was like, I would ask that you run it by me, because I've actually done that job, and I'd like to have some opportunity to ask questions, because there's a lot of people out there that really don't understand the job and don't understand the job for your perspective. And I remember, I still to this day, it sticks with me. They're like, that's funny, because a lot of people tell me that. A lot of people tell me there's a lot of like pretenders or people that are advertising that they have the skill that really don't have the skill. And I thought about that. I was like, I wonder why someone who's not even in the industry would have already been told and warned so strongly about this.
I'm trying to see which side to take first on this, right?
I don't know, but if it helps you pick a side, my thinking goes out to all the organizations that are out there that are like development-centric organizations that don't have Scrum Masters, and like I would just think that like they hear this kind of trepidation, this kind of double guessing, or all the negativity from this gatekeeping, and they are like, oh well, I don't even want a Scrum Master.
Yeah, to them it's just, see, these people who are themselves coaches that post these things are saying that Agile essentially, in a nutshell, doesn't work. Right? Agilists don't work. So it just gives them fuel to just resist even more and fall back to what they know best, which is the old way of working, which doesn't actually work all that well.
It never worked. Yeah.
So, yeah, unfortunately, it fuels the fire, sadly. Sometimes these people that are posting this have their own methods and wares to peddle.
Oh, boy, sometimes. But like if I'm going to throw out an incendiary percentage, I should put that in the show notes. It'd be like 99% of people that are Agile gatekeeping are trying to sell you their book. 98% of Agile gatekeeping people are trying to get you to buy their services. 97% prefer Diet Coke. I don't know. I don't know.
97.4.
We're all only say that because we're all drinking Diet Coke.
Yeah.
What other incendiary nonsense here? 75% of Agile coaches think that mindset and psychological safety will do the trick. All right, let's pause here for 1 second. I like to think that in every perspective, there is something that can help you. And in this one, we find that like in here, in the ranting, I'm like, actually, if you're an Agile coach and you're properly placed in the organization and you go to the leadership and you're like, this person on this team or this person in the hierarchy, they're disturbing your psychological safety. They're constantly yelling at people and stomping their feet and demanding things, and they don't understand how teams are constructed. They're not taking feedback, and they don't understand that being a bully in meetings is that's not the way to innovate and create new products. And I'm like, okay, actually, I think that having a deep understanding of mindset and psychological safety, if your leadership is listening, could go a very long way in the organization to help your leadership understand that, like, I have to deal with these problem people. Yes, I have a CTO, director of development, whatever, that they got my company to this point and they're very critical, and I decided as a leader I was going to tolerate their behaviors or whatever until this point, until I got this Agile coach in and they started highlighting, you can't deal with this business risk anymore. You have to act. And now they've presented something to me where I, the leader, have to choose, do I want to let this person keep being a bull in a china shop on my teams, or do I want to act? Now, you, in support of his article, you could say as a leader, you escalated it, and this happens in companies all the time. There's a problem. You point out the problem. You're blamed for pointing out the problem. Okay, also, there's a problem. You point out the problem, nothing happens because that person's the only one that knows this code base. That person's the only one that knows the systems inside and out. That person's the number one person that everybody calls when the system goes down or when the middle of the night, whatever, something happens. That person's a hero developer or whatever. Like, and then the company lets a lot of stuff slide.
Yep. A
lot of stuff slide. Mm-hmm. And we're not even tipping over to like truly amoral bad stuff that companies let slide. Companies, you know who you are. We're not even going into the really bad situations that companies let persist, even though they know a problem is going on. But I would have to argue with his 75% of Agile coaches think mindset and psychological safety will do the trick, because actually they will do the trick at a certain level of the organization when the rest of the organization doesn't care about those things. Then I am back in line with him. If he's saying, if your executive leadership and your directors, whatever, your leadership of your organization doesn't care how people are treated, yeah, you're right. You're right. Agile coaches can't really make a lick of difference with psychological. You're a doctor in organizational psychology.
Right.
And your organization doesn't care about that, yeah, you're going to make very little difference.
That's correct.
But that's the biggest like straw man argument I can think of right now. Like, you can apply that ridiculous logic to just about anything. You're a doctor in data science, but every executive at your company chooses what to build based on their gut reaction and how they feel about something. Of course, you're going to feel like, well, nobody cares about my in-depth analytics and my, like, of course, the company doesn't care about it.
Yeah, so I think a couple of things here I want to say.
Yeah.
One is this idea about the mindset. That word is overused today. Everybody just says that now, and I think now it's got to the point where it means nothing.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah.
Right.
Big data. Yeah, same thing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like big data. Yeah. So we've got to be careful using these terms that can easily be turned around. Like, it's incremental gains, because you're not going to win. You're basically Sisyphus pushing a rock up a hill.
Sure.
I lost my train of thought here. Hang on, it'll come back to me.
Oh, you're in the right place.
I'm in the right place, yeah. Yeah, psychological safety. That's another phrase that is overused today, right? Those that really get it, they just simply make it happen without even like explicitly calling that out. This space is now psychologically safe.
Yeah.
Because I said so. That doesn't do it.
Because
right? Because you vocalized it. So your team members now are supposed to know that it's safe to speak up. Right? What else are you going to say? I'm not recording the call. I'm not taking notes. Right? So that's not going to do it. There are lots of other things you can do.
I have an open door policy.
That's right.
Anyone can walk in and say anything they want. Don't you dare.
I have an open door policy, but my calendar's triple booked.
Yeah, get back to work. All right, so now he goes into the lower percentages. 50% of Agile coaches are somewhat confused about also being considered life coaches. I don't think I'm going to read the rest. I don't think I'm going to leave that one just the way it is, because I sort of, I don't know about 50%, but I sort of agree with him on that one. And then he goes into 20% or less of all Agile coaches have the right personality to be a coach to begin with. They either talk too much. Oh, okay. His counterpoint is they either talk too much, talk too little, talk when and to whom it is not appropriate, cannot keep confidentiality, and many don't impress with either their knowledge or personality. His point is 20% of coaches have the personality. They have the right personality to be a coach. That needs to be a topic all its own. We'll talk about that for a second.
Yep.
And then he talks about what people do that they so. And many don't impress with either their knowledge or personality. Okay, so he's saying 20% of coaches actually have what it takes to be a coach, but the majority don't impress with either their knowledge or their personality. Well, like I just told a story to the people listening or the people watching. You're not going to hear the whole story, but basically the summary of the story was when a recruiter told me recently, because they were looking at my background, a recruiter told me recently that they sent a candidate on a job interview, and they blew through all the interviews with no problem, and they got to the final interview, and in the final interview, when they were talking to the actual team members that they would work with, the team members started in-depth asking them like technical questions, and they just failed all the technical questions. They couldn't hang with what the actual work that the team was actually doing, the technical work that the team was. They couldn't understand it. That's really what it is. Because I mean, a product person, this is probably a much deeper conversation, and we could have that separately. But the product person doesn't need to understand. Like if you're writing code in Python, you shouldn't be asking coding questions to your product person.
Right.
However, your product person should, I mean, at a high level, understand why you're using Python as opposed to another language, maybe.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Maybe. Right?
I mean,
maybe.
if you're looking for just for a quick reason why someone might be like, oh, I don't understand anything about why Python's different. Like if you're looking for a lightweight, light barrier to entry language that's pretty quick to do what you need to do, like Python might be a good one for you. Also Python is the language of data science as well. So if you're doing quick data transformation, data science type of stuff, Python's a really good language, and there are Python notebooks that you can publish and let users interact with at different stages in the runtime. But that Python might be a good choice for you over like a heavier weight language like Java or C++ or something like that, when you need like real fine granular control of every little thing. Again, like if you're a lot of product people, I don't know if they would. I know this guy's not talking about product people, but I would expect with his leaps of logic that he's taking, product people would be 2-3 steps ahead of where he's at, because he's talking about like the Agile coaches are sitting closer and represent the team than most product people. Product people have a division from the team normally.
Yes.
So I would expect whatever I'm talking about for product people, the Agile coaches would be even closer to the team. I worked with a team one time the team was establishing DevOps pipelines to deploy their software. Mm-hmm. And I had done that before.
Right.
So the team was looking for a product person that understood, like, well, these are the reasons why we need to transform from doing manual deployments to doing automatic, because their automatic deployments through their pipelines were a combination of deploying software to environment, but also some data transformation ETL kind of stuff.
Sure.
They would take from a source, consume it, it would go through the pipeline, it would get deployed to the environments that we were hosting, and some data transformation and stuff would occur along the way.
Yeah, most product owners wouldn't need to understand to a technical level how things work, but it might be helpful for them to understand the terms and what they are.
Sure.
So when somebody mentions Python, they should just know that is a tool that the team is using for whatever.
Yeah.
That's it. They don't have to worry about the how or anything like that, right? That's what the team's there for. Those product owners that basically say, well, that's just technical stuff, I'll leave it to the team. Okay, they're also right, because it's not their role to understand the technology and the detail, to the detail. I do have a bone to pick on this particular topic with this fellow, though, when he talks about many don't impress with either their knowledge or personality. Now this is where things go the opposite direction from coaching.
This is where it breaks down?
This is where it breaks down, because a lot of people will say, well, when you're coaching, let the team find their own solution, right? Don't feed them the solution.
Right.
What do you do there? You talk less. You let them come up with, provide guardrails if you want, but let them come up with it. Some would even say, it's okay to let them fail.
I'll jump in and defend his point here. Let's rip this point apart. So his point here that we're talking about is 20% or less. Again, his percentage numbers are just garbage. He's saying very few agile coaches, 1 out of 5. That's his number. I don't know about that number, but 1 out of 5 agile coaches have the right personality to be a coach to begin with, right? They bring the right skills, the right natural skills to the career field to start before you stack on expertise or training or certifications or whatever. He says they talk too much or talk too little, or they talk about things that aren't appropriate to talk about, or break confidentiality, or they don't come across to impress people with the skill or the knowledge or their personality. I'm going to get behind him and defend him for a second, because there's an agile coach on LinkedIn that had a great post about, I should stop and try to find it for a second, but he's like, if these things are in your personality, you have the potential to be a great agile coach. And it's difficult to challenge your own assumptions sometimes.
Yeah, I get that. I just always, we've thrown away the percentage, right? So having the right personality, how do you know you have the right personality? A lot of agile coaches come up through becoming a Scrum Master, and then up they go the chain, right? When they gather more experience. I would say just that, by definition, would mean that you've molded your personality. You're a Scrum Master, right? You're a servant leader, of all things, right? So you would have the personality. You wouldn't last long if you didn't. Now, granted, there are some people who would, again, sit through the class and go, hey, I have a cert here that says I'm an agile coach, right? Those are the same people, more than likely, that did the same thing with their Scrum Master or Product Owner certifications. These are people that really didn't walk the walk anyway. Yeah. So yes, there's a percentage of that. Is it 1 in 5? I don't know. But there are those, to his point. Of course, you're going to get that, right? But I don't think it's a big number, because they don't survive in the field. They will get weeded out.
Where this one connects with me is, I do feel there's a lot of people out there that have a very tough time putting their ego aside.
Yes.
Okay? Because none of this is about you. It's about helping the team evolve. And also, it might not even be fair to say putting your ego aside, because we've talked about this before, long time ago, about meet them where they are. I have a very difficult time with meet them where they are, when you know that where they are is in a very bad place.
Yeah, we have talked about this, where I think I might have said something like, well, I don't want to meet them where they are, because where they are is not ideal. I'm here because they don't like where they are.
Yeah.
That's another phrase that's overused. So that's 3 now today, right? That these are overused. Meet them where they are. I think, to me, I interpret that as just don't force anything, right? And bring them up gradually, and just don't come in and say, I'm going to crowbar agile here.
Yeah, this is the part where we will kind of dig in and where we'll hit some friction to try to figure out how we get past it as a Scrum Master, Agile Coach, whatever you want to call it. If I see a bunch of things that I consider problems, this is a judgmental thing that we get into, right? This is where Corey was yelling at me on the podcast where she was on. Like, there are issues. Like, and people will be like, oh, Brian, who are you to say that there are issues? Like, if you're doing all manual deployments and pajama party deployments instead of having good CI/CD, that's a problem.
It's absolutely a problem.
If I can't deploy but once every 8-9 months or even weeks,
Right.
like, let's say I can't deploy but every quarter. I do one deployment a quarter to production, no matter how many deployments go to stage or whatever. One deployment to production per quarter because I'm so scared. And it causes such a havoc on production when testing is so bad or whatever, or quality is so bad. It's not testing. That's not fair. It's quality is so bad. Quality is so bad that it's a huge problem when I deploy to production. That's a problem. Like, these are all business risks. So, I mean, I guess if you truly were like the Agile Coach Zen Master, they're all problems. Yes. But let them flow through you. And ignore them all. I can't ignore them all. They're like, if I'm part of the organization and I know a better way, like, I have to let people know, hey, this is what we should be shooting for, and we're here now. But we need to be aligned on. We're here now. This is where we could be. Do we want to get there? But let's at least have the conversation of, do we want to get here?
I think you nailed it. So oftentimes some people say, as an Agile coach, you're just going to let things evolve, right? So just don't impinge anything on the team. No process changes. Just let them figure it out for themselves.
Yeah.
Well, do you think they will? They would have done by now. So why are you here?
Right.
Seriously.
Right.
So pick something and improve on that.
Right.
And then say, okay, what else can we be doing? Pick something else.
Yeah.
Keep going. That's what I would say.
When I was a Scrum Master / Agile Coach on a very large, actually I wasn't even really a Scrum Master because I did product as well, so it was more like a program manager on a larger program. I remember a particularly demanding stakeholder was like, why are you asking what we could be doing better? Haven't you been on enough programs? You just tell us what to do better.
Right. So that's where your guiding method comes in, right? Not telling them so much as, what do you think this might work for you? You think you could try that for a sprint or so?
Yeah.
As opposed to, I'm here now, right? This is what you need to do.
Yeah.
As I say so.
Yeah.
That seldom works, even if what you're saying is the right thing, because there's no buy-in. You're just forcing it.
Well, that's what he's saying here. Only 1 out of 5 coaches know when to talk and when not to talk. He's talking about skill. I'm talking about when to step in to coach and when to lean back and let things happen, when to meet them when they are versus when to drive to the goal. I would kind of argue with if I'm going to break, I know I was supposed to be representing his position, but hey, it's our podcast, so I do whatever I want. If I'm going to break with what he's saying, like, if your alignment in the organization has a big part to play in if you can do this. If you're aligned at the team level and your opinion is not desired at the leadership level, you're not going to say anything about, like, maybe your leadership should have a leads level Kanban board where I can put my blockers on and I can put things on for you to help my team with or whatever. It's like, yeah, we're not really about helping other people around in this organization. Just stay quiet and do what we pay you by the hour to do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, these are organizations that hire yes folks, right? Yes men, yes women. Yeah. And at that point, the Agile coach has to make a decision. Is that what they're there to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes you don't move the needle. You don't, right? You got to decide, what are you going to do? You just leave it alone or just break the needle. Don't move it.
Yeah, that's the old, again, I can't believe we're 60 plus episodes in and Mark has not been on the podcast yet. That's the old Mark-ism is you should always be on the edge of getting fired, and that's how you're being effective as a Scrum Master. You don't know if they're
position.
You don't know if they're going to ask you back next week. Yeah. I should leave that name drop in the podcast and just tag him on LinkedIn.
Yeah, you should do that.
Let's cut back to the end of his article. I can't believe it. There's still article happening. Anyway, he says, so 20%, we talked about 20%. 5% of Agile coaches are truly Agile trainers that teach Agile coaches how to, well, wait a minute. What are we talking about now?
Coaches are trainers that teach coaches?
I'm so confused.
Yeah, I know.
They get paid by Agile coaches for passing easy digital. Oh, so he's accusing. I get it. So 5% of the people who are Agile coaching get paid to propagate the industry, is what he's saying out of this one. That's what he's saying. They get paid by Agile coaches for passing easy tests, digital badges, and certifications, supposedly providing the air quotes secret sauce. I know it's quotes, but I like saying air quotes, that make companies successful, and fail to realize that once you offer a public training course, the secret sauce isn't secret anymore. I don't really know who he's accusing here.
The trainers. I think he's going after the trainers.
He is going after the trainers. And I like 5%. I mean, that seems pretty low.
I'd say so, because most of the trainers that I've met here have their own. I want to say nuance, but that's too mild of a word.
Yeah.
Their own way of impressing upon people the way they want to train, basically. And I think that's maybe where he's heading with this.
All right.
Do you want to argue one or the other side of that one?
I don't want to get involved.
You plead in the fifth.
I kind of want to leave this one alone. I like these accusing trainers of propagating the whole issue, or the problems or whatever. But
I want to say something about the trainers, though, right? There's trainers and then there's trainers. So now that's one of the unfortunate consequences of the pandemic is you can take remote classes.
Yeah.
You can take remote classes for a fraction of the cost, right? And there's a lot of trainers. They are certified trainers. There's no doubt about that. But are they effective? Have they actually been in the trenches and done the work and come up? I don't know. I've come across a few that, sure, you'll get your certification on the cheap. And it's the same certification, not any less. It's just, what are you learning from these people, right? Other than just getting your piece of paper.
Yeah.
What are you really learning? So I've seen Agile coaches, Scrum Masters, product owners get their certs from such organizations, usually one-man shows, and then say, well, I'm now a certified so-and-so. And it's like, you really didn't pick up much.
Yeah.
A lot of dogma for sure.
Yeah, it's funny that this stuff kind of didn't come out in our certification podcast where we sat down and talked about the certification industry. But like I didn't, or maybe I wasn't thinking about it when we were talking about that, because I was just man crushing over Brent the whole time. I think about certifications like this, like they're an entry point, and then depending on the person giving the certification, I kind of think the advantage of that, I mean, plus like with the amount of money you shell out for, you used to, like 2018 before, you know what I mean, not pandemic,
sure,
costs before. I kind of think is like with the money that you shell out for it, it should be more like an entrance into a community than anything else. There should be some sort of like mentor relationship, or at least community relationship. I think of it as like Reddit. Like if I'm going to go on our Agile on Reddit and just ask random Agile questions, it should be that only. Like all the Scrum trainers should be there. But what am I paying for? I should be paying for entrance into the exclusive community. That's what I should be paying for, and then the certification should just be the basic rules of the community on top of everything else. It should be like, don't come into this community and ask how to do a proper Gantt chart. You're going to get bounced out of the community. They're going to be like, that's ridiculous. Why we don't do Gantt charts here?
Right.
Don't come into the community and ask how I'm going to make sure that I'm getting full utilization out of every one of my development resources. And that's ridiculous. That's not what we believe. So if it's going to be like that, but it's not like that.
It's not. So you're saying more like a journeyman type of model, or maybe like a trade school type of thing, right?
Yeah.
So the community will support you for a while, but you're now immersed in with those experts, and they are experts.
And I've paid for my sponsorship.
You paid for that, right?
I've paid for it.
Yeah, so I wish that were the model, because then you wouldn't have this issue where people just pay a couple $100 and self-declare themselves this or that.
Enterprise Agile coach.
I've seen people that go back to back to back to back with all these certs, and the more you take, the cheaper by the dozen approach, right? And suddenly they're now this super duper executive agile coach, whatever, and it's only been 2-3 months for the whole thing, right? So I pity the organization that hire them for that, because they're not going to be successful. I also pity the people, because they'll get bounced out.
Yeah. Or they'll float from position to position. They'll kind of drift.
In reality, that's what they'll do.
They'll drift. Yeah. Let's close out what he's saying. Yeah, I don't know. Like on one hand, he says are truly agile trainers, meaning people that are agile trainers. Like, ain't nobody out there that's an agile trainer. Training in agility.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Training in agility. There ain't nobody out there training in agility, first of all. You can corner the market if you came up with some kind of training in agility. Anyway, let's skip over that. He does miss a category here about something like are truly enterprise agile coaches, because that's missing in here, because that's a different cut of agile coaches. Agile coaches that are ready to supervise other agile coaches are different than trainers, and are different than people that can coach teams and stuff. Anyway, I know he's not really trying to make solid points, but I don't know why I'm trying to make solid points at this point in the podcast. He says 3% of agile coaches have technical backgrounds that allow them to speak about technical issues such as software design and DevOps from real experience. They dismiss the other 97% as incompetent.
He was going well until that line.
And then the other 97% that they are dismissing as incompetent looks at the technical coaches with suspicion. After all, aren't they just those weird software people? We're stopping here. Is he showing bias in this? I didn't look at the article's author and his background at all in any way, shape, or form, but I would expect he's showing bias here to be like, I'm awesome.
Absolutely, he's showing bias here, right? He's calling all of those technical people pointy heads, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And he's saying that these agile coaches that are technical themselves are no different than those technocrats, right? These developers.
Yeah, but let me look. All right, so you take his side. No, I'm sorry. I'll take his side, because his side's. I'll take his side, because it's like I don't know why I'm taking all the.
we can tag.
I probably shouldn't, but I'll take his side, and you take the side of normal people.
Normal people.
Yeah. Sane people.
Work hard.
What he's saying here is like, you need, like, the people with the technical background. He's inferring they are better connected to help people do the job because they've done the job. That's what he's inferring, I believe. Anyway, whatever. And people who've never done the job, like people who ran out and got a certification, or people who can talk the talk that never actually have done it before, like the managerial type of class of people, he's saying like there's a reason you can't cut it, because you've never done the job. That's what he's trying to back up.
So if we go with that line of reasoning, I would have to agree with that, right? But then I'd say the other side of it, which is he's right when it comes to working with teams. If you've been there, worked in technology, and you're working with your teams, you understand their language, perhaps some of the challenges they're facing. But that's where it stops. Say at the enterprise level, you're working with other stakeholders. There's no training for that.
No.
Right? You wouldn't have done that before, and if you have, then you were already a coach at that point.
I kind of would think also what he's talking about kind of stops at the team level.
Yes.
It might transfer a bit when you're at like a scaled level where you're just interacting with technical teams. In a product position, I've been in a scaled product position before. I think about like, if I'm a product owner on one team and I've got a scaled product owner, like chief product owner or whatever, I'm a chief product owner. I have several teams that are implementing, or maybe like a group product owner, because there's that too. We're all under one application, but the different product owners have different subsets or pieces of the application.
Yeah,
that could be as well. But at some point, you're going to scale up to a product owner. But at some point, you climb the ladder in the product owner role to get to a point where now you're not dealing with other product owners anymore. You're driving to other parts of the business. You're driving the interface with sales. You're driving the interface with major customer stakeholders and vendors and account managers and business development people or executives or marketing revenue people. And now you're taking in the viewpoints and perspectives of non-product people. I get what he's saying, and I get what you're saying, and when I put the two together, like, I reach an apex in the organization of like that. What he's saying no longer flies anymore. Your technical background only takes you up so far in the organization.
Yeah, I agree, and that's also, you mentioned that from the perspective of a product owner, but I think that applies. It applies from the perspective of an agile coach also, right? You soon run out of that technical stuff, and then you're dealing with people, and at that point, the only thing that's going to help you is your people skills.
I'll give you a very real example of something that I've dealt with more than once as an agile coach in the organization, which is the topic of capitalizing software. Mm-hmm. Because the topic of capitalizing software usually comes down from an executive level, because your finance is fighting to do something, and now you're pushing back against, I don't know, probably the executive of your organization. I'm talking about like the chief executive or the CFO level of your organization, the chief finance person in your organization, or the chief executive in your organization, saying, hey, you need to reshape your budgetary practices to fall in line with this strategy. Basically, having a technical background won't help you at all in this request. And I completely could see a development department be like, oh, agile coach, scrum master, whatever, you deal with impediments to the organization. I don't want a developer to deal with this. You handle it. I mean, what are you going to do? Like, a technical background doesn't help you at that point.
No, I mean, you could say, well, maybe if you're technical, you have an analytical mindset, that might help you, but that's a stretch. It's not your technical background that's helping you at that point. Yeah, I agree with that.
But people will be like, oh, Brian, but that's finance. Like, oh, that's a normal team member, even a scrum master or whatever member of a team won't have to deal with finances. It should be handled by somebody else. Sure, yeah, it could be. Yeah, you're right. But how many other situations like that will crop up? Dealing with vendors. Who's got to deal with vendors? Who's got to go vet? Hey, we need a new tool. We need a new design tool to use. We got to go buy a new tool. Go vet. Like, I did this when I was a QA manager for automation frameworks. Hey, should we create our own? I'm a big fan of saying roll our own. Should we create our own automation framework and learn from the ground up? Or should we try to buy an out-of-the-box framework? Or should we try to offshore this work? Like, yeah, go figure out the cost benefit and make some recommendations. I was lucky because I was in an organization where the leadership in the organization would demand 3 well thought out options before they would even consider spending money. So you actually would have to do some good legwork.
You may have to obtain bids and all of that stuff.
Exactly.
How is the technical background going to help you?
It's not going to help you at all.
I agree with that. But that is definitely in the wheelhouse of a product owner or an agile coach at that level, right? So yes, you soon run out of the technology piece that he's talking about there.
Yeah. So I think he's being a bit pedantic, but also a bit short-sighted in his examples. But, again, his level of inflammation on the internet, top tier.
Way high. Yeah, absolutely. He nailed it on that one.
Yeah. Okay, he finishes by saying 1% or less of agile coaches have the relevant technical, business, and executive backgrounds to allow them to influence C-level executives, and most recruiters, hiring managers, or executives have no idea how to find a professional with relevant experience. Instead, they're drowned by resumes from bushy-tailed, fresh certified coaches with 1 year experience or less.
Well, there's 2 things there, right? So 1% or less of agile coaches have the relevant technical, business, and executive backgrounds. Well, I'm not surprised.
To allow them to influence C-level.
To allow them to influence C-level execs. But those 3, relevant technical, business, and executive backgrounds, that means they must have been around for some time to gather those kinds of backgrounds.
Yeah.
So I think that goes into his second point, right?
Hang on. His second point here is 0% of agile coaches would turn down a job because they feel they're not qualified for it. Like let's knock that out.
No, I don't mean that one.
I know, but let's knock that out before we get into this, because I feel they're one and the same. I don't feel they're different.
Okay.
1% or less. He's saying almost no. Almost no agile coaches have the proper relevant experience to coach C-level executives. That's what he's saying. Almost none. And he's saying no agile coach would turn down a job that, even though they don't think they're qualified for it. Okay, so they're kind of the same to me.
Yeah, I see that.
And then he also makes a remark that says, basically, recruiters, hiring managers, people that are hiring for positions, they don't know how to qualify people.
Right.
It's nice for other people to be attacking HR people other than us. Like, that's kind of nice. Like, I'm glad.
Look, I've got to give him that point, though, right?
Yeah,
recruiters don't have a clue sometimes. They're just painting everything with such a big, wide, broad brush.
I mean, if we're gonna go after the profession of recruiting, I mean, like.
Well, not everybody's.
Yeah, they do that for agile coaches, but I mean, like, what other jobs do they do that? Like, the point of a recruiter, especially a headhunter, is to position your candidate as the best that you can to get the job. Right. So at a certain point, I am kind of discounting everything he's saying. If he's making commentary about the agile coaching profession is kind of so wild and all over the place that people don't really know what they're looking at when they look at candidates, that's something I can get behind and we can talk about.
Sure.
Because I feel that like strap yourself in because you feel that way about agile coaching. Let me tell you about product managers. Oh my goodness.
For sure. I agree with that. I do agree with that.
But he's saying everyone is like up to the job and will sign up for it, even if they don't have the skill for it. And then he brings that back to say 1% of agile coaches actually have the skill to coach at the C-level. This is one of the things they added to the Scrum guide was you're supposed to be coaching up in the organization. So theoretically, if you're at a small company, 20, 30, 40 people, and you have access to the C-level, even if it's your first job as a Scrum Master, you should be looking for opportunities to connect with your C-level, figure out what they want, figure out what your team's doing, and figure out how to connect the two. If you need some mentorship and some coaching to figure out how to do that, that's one thing. Should you not even try? I'm not sure what point he's trying to make here.
He's not sure what point he's trying to make here,
good.
I don't think. Right, well. But you're right. So with this, right, 1% of less, his point is almost none. You can challenge that. There are some agile coaches that have been around a while, and I don't know. I couldn't tell you the percentage, right? But I don't think it's almost none. I think it's now we've been working in an agile way for a lot longer than we had 5 years ago.
Sure, yeah.
I think there are coaches around that can actually influence the C-level staff. I think there's some traction, right, toward that. So I don't think it's 1%, and it doesn't really matter what percent it is. His point here is that people will just jump at the jobs even though they're not qualified for it.
Right.
And recruiters don't know how to match, right? That's what I'm seeing here.
Right, yeah.
So on the recruiter side, I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times a week people contact me and go, I have an entry-level position for you. They're only looking for 2 years experience. Mm-hmm. Did you check my profile first?
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure that's quite prevalent out there. They just want to get somebody in.
Yeah.
Bums in seats, right?
Yeah.
So yes, he's got that point. I'll yield that. What I won't agree with is that people will grab any job that they're not qualified for. I don't think you'll do that because you're doing your career no good doing that.
We don't need to theorize on this one. There is a study out there. I don't remember what school did the study. There's a study out there that says that a higher percentage of men will apply for positions they're not qualified for than women. It's a percentage of like women need to qualify for 90%. I think it's 90% of the items in the job description, whereas men will only need to qualify for like 60% or 40% or something really low like that. And that's kind of why when you put job descriptions up, you should really only think about like the bare bones of what you need, because you could be shooting yourself in the foot as far as diversity goes by posting a shopping list of like, oh, we'd like to have this and we'd like to have this, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I never thought about it from that perspective. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's a real, like, I know I have the study saved somewhere. I should find it and link it in the show notes, because I want to say it's a recent study as well. It's not a very old study, but obviously he's not like if he was talking about relevant topics and actual real topics like this, rather than just trying to fan some flames on LinkedIn to get attention, that would be one thing. But I don't know. I sort of want to defend his position on this one. I sort of don't know if I care that much anymore. Like to defend his position here, the people that, again, I go back to what I said earlier in the podcast, the people that are willing to coach up to the C level, even at the actual C level in the organization, versus the people that are effective coaching at the C level, I mean, sure, I guess we can have a conversation about that. I don't know how you would, I mean, the job interview would be how you would identify people capable of coaching at the C level versus not. But it's, again, that's like any job interview. Like, how are you sure someone can do that?
You're not. There's no acid test, right? You're not really. I think the only thing you could do is a combination of, obviously, a job interview to kind of vet that, but look at the candidate's background. What have they done that's similar, and how effective were they there?
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the way to go.
Yeah, and I don't know about his take on the situation, because like it's kind of up to your organization to understand who should be in the realm of being coached by the person that you're bringing on. Where do you see them organizationally? Do you see them coaching all the way up to the C level? Because if so, they probably should be aligned close to the C level if they're supposed to be coaching to that level.
That's right.
Absolutely. So the job description should be written in a way that kind of encourages attracting candidates that have that skill or have done that before in some capacity. You know,
as opposed to lift and shift, copy, paste, and search and replace. Yeah.
I mean, if you're a smaller organization, or if you have a new team, if you already have experienced people in place and you're creating a new team and you're looking for a Scrum Master for your new team, maybe that's the time for you to take a chance on someone with less career experience, because you have a framework in place at your company to mentor and bring on new people. Somebody posted this today about retrospective, like, oh, how do we know we're getting our money's worth? We're getting a return on our investment for the time that we invest in the hour and a half that it takes to do. Let's say a company does a retrospective every sprint, and it takes an hour. Let's say you have 10 people on your team that are involved in that retrospective. Oh, that's 10 hours every 2 weeks. So basically every month I'm spending 20 hours on retrospectives. That's a lot of time. How do I know I'm getting my business money worth for 20 hours a month, basically 20 hours a month? So what is that, 240 hours in a year in retrospective time? Yeah, 240. So what am I getting productivity wise and whatever wise, metric wise, basically?
Right.
And my reply on that, my incendiary reply on that was, well, how do you know when you send an employee to training what you're getting back out of it? Like, right. You should apply the same metric. And if your metric is, I don't send my employees to training, like, you've got a problem. You've got a real problem you got to look at and deal with.
Yeah, it's hard to quantify sometimes, but you can point out the improvements that have already happened from past retros, and point those out and say, had we not improved, what costs would we have incurred? Right. That's about the only thing you can do for people that really don't understand the value of retrospectives. Yeah,
I'm not a huge fan of incendiary posts on LinkedIn. And generally speaking, I try to avoid incendiary posts in order to attract attention on social media. That seems like not really a great method, of using social media. But I see a lot of this, and I was a bit concerned, because I'm like, every gatekeeping post like this that either tries to sell something or to position yourself or whatever, kind of, it hurts the whole community. You know what I mean? And I also know that there are people out there that see every post like this, and it's just fuel for their fire to be like, see, Agile doesn't work.
Absolutely, that's right. That's the fallacy, right? That they can quickly gravitate to reading stuff like this, especially when it comes from people that are self-titled enterprise Agile coaches. Right? So what are you really doing? You're cutting off the branch you're sitting on. That's what you're really doing.
Maybe their problem is they haven't gotten a lofty enough title. They need to be thought provokers.
Ooh, there's some
thought leaders. Thought leaders.
Yeah. I'm just happy being a thought follower. That's work. That's work enough. But
don't be a thought follower. That's
thought follower.
I have to cut all this out. That's
no.